because at the end of the day, she is an individual and I'm an individual mom. And like learning from other people, but also like learning from my child, which is it's weird. It's weird to learn from a toddler.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. My name is Reesa and I'm your host. We are talking to real families about real stories here on The Real Family Eats, where we've got food for thought and thoughtful food. So let's eat. Welcome back, everyone, to The Real Family Eats. Thanks so much for joining me. And actually, today's guest, I'm going to give a welcome back to as well, because Chloe, thank you so much for joining us again. We had technical issues. Again, this is The Real Family Eats, so we're going to be real here. And so Chloe is actually talking with me again. And we're going to try this one more time because she's got such an amazing story that I think will relate to a lot of you folks out there. So Chloe, hi again, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm glad to be back.
For anyone who doesn't know you, can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, I'm Chloe. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I am 35 and I have a 3-year-old daughter who started preschool today.
Yes, transition. We were just talking about that. It's so many life transitions in this parenthood journey, and we will chat more about that in just a minute. Before we get started, though, you're sharing a recipe with us that has some deep roots. So I'd love for you to let our audience know, what recipe are you sharing with us today? Why did you choose this one?
So I'm sharing my lemon pepper chicken thigh recipe. And this recipe goes way back. When my dad was a single parent, he used to make a big lemon pepper roasted chicken, and that would kind of like last, a week or so. And we would make it together. And as I got older and into my adulthood, I realized that making a whole chicken was kind of a lot. So then I turned it into just using chicken thighs.
Uh-huh.
And the gravy that it makes is just so like rich and orangey and lemony, and it just really has like a zing, but it's like a total comfort food for me. When I'm having a rough day, I just will be like, I need some chicken thighs with some lemon pepper on them. And it just takes me back.
Yeah, I love it. And I love how food can do that. Like you said, it just brings us back. I feel like everybody has some sort of food that brings back just like some really visceral memories for them. And
Yeah,
so it sounds like this is one of them for you. So
yeah,
I so
yeah,
appreciate you being willing to share it with us.
of course.
So can you tell me, what are the steps? Get me started, and then we'll jump into our conversation about parenthood.
Yeah. So if you're using like fresh chicken thighs, you want to like completely dry them and
Okay.
then like with just like paper towels. I put them on like a cutting board and then put paper towels over them for just like a couple minutes and then really like dredge them in lemon pepper and either olive oil or vegetable oil, whichever one, doesn't really matter. You should use so much lemon pepper that you think it's like grossly too much. And it's not like
Okay.
a light dusting. It's like a really put it on there. And then you can use, I like to use like a deep pan, but I've even recently started using like my Dutch oven
Okay.
and over like medium high heat, put oil in, let that come to let that get hot, and then put each thigh in individually. Um, and I like to do them, I used to do it skin side first, but that's not working anymore. So now just do it non-skin side down. And then
Okay.
until each side gets golden brown. Each, everyone's stove is different.
Hmm.
So you never know the timing. It's all just a feel for me. But then once they're golden brown, flip them. And then I put the whole thing in the oven and let everything continue to cook until the chicken thighs are at temperature.
Okay.
And then if you, sometimes I like to like throw in some orange juice, let it really like thicken up. If you want it like thicker or like more lemony. You can even add more lemon pepper.
Okay.
I mean, it sounds wild. And then like that kind of gravy just like thicken up in the oven. And then when they're at
Mhm.
temperature, pull them out. And I like to serve it over rice with like a green
Okay.
veggie on the side. Yeah.
Yummy. I am so excited. And for anyone listening, those instructions will also be in the show notes. If you've got some questions, you can always review back there. So I'll get things going. And while we're chatting, I know, Chloe, we kind of caught up in the sense that with your transitions and that you're experiencing just currently, it also there's a reflection there on just your journey with postpartum anxiety and kind of your walk through that I would love to kind of hear more about because again I think that's such a relatable topic. I hear so many folks talk about it and just the struggle and sometimes how it feels really lonely as well as like almost like something's wrong with you like in a negative way if you will. And so I'd love
Mhm.
for you to kind of share your journey and your experience, maybe some insights and ahas with us about what you're walking through even currently.
Sure. So I've always struggled with depression and anxiety. So when I had my baby, I had sort of like a back burner of like maybe this was going to be a thing. So I
Okay.
started seeing a postpartum therapist at 6 weeks postpartum.
Okay.
So my baby was 6 weeks old. Um, and with her help, we kind of really started to learn that a lot of my issues and anxieties were related to feeding my baby. How do I know that she's getting enough?
Okay.
And my baby was tiny. You know, she was a 40 weeker and like 5 pounds.
Mm.
So she was
Hmm.
just really small, but very efficient. And she would just eat really, really fast and be done. And even with like pumping and breastfeeding, I never made more than 4 ounces. She never needed more than 4 ounces, but I needed a constant reminder that she was eating enough, that she was
Mm.
going, that she's getting as much as she needs. She knows what she can eat and she knows what she can do with what
Yeah.
she eats. So when she started to eat solids, that turned into, okay, well, she can manage what she can decide now. She can decide what she wants to eat and how she wants to eat it. She's very much of like a grazer. I'm not a grazer. I like to sit down and eat a meal. She just could not care less about that. And now here we are 3 years later, and it's still that same way. She wants to eat for about 5 to 10 minutes and then move on.
Okay.
She just does not care about, it's not that she doesn't care about food, it's just not her priority.
Mm.
She's not motivated or like mesmerized by food. She just wants to eat what she needs and move on. And that's very hard for me to know that she's actually nourishing her body and getting enough. And even here we are 3 years later, and this is like still a conversation that I'm having with my therapist. Like, we're still working through this, like gaining my confidence as a mom to trust that my 3-year-old knows what her body needs
Yeah.
at the age of 3. And it's like this summer, we had her home with us before starting preschool, and so much of my burnout and even my husband's burnout was just around making meals for her, trying to like come up with ways to get her to eat
Yeah.
and just learning to trust that like when she says she's full and that's okay.
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
it's just such a roller coaster. And that's even what the pediatrician like described it as. He was like, a lot of toddlers are this, I'm going to eat this much this day, and then this day I'm not going to eat that much. And then I'm going to have a giant wave of this up and down of food. And I was just like, this is exhausting. It is
Hmm.
exhausting to keep up with her and what she needs on a daily because it's not the same, you know.
Yeah.
And that's been it's just been a very wavy experience for me because it's hard to trust a little 3-year-old.
Hmm. I can appreciate that. Yeah. I'm so curious, like for you, because I hear you mentioning that, there's this anxiety about it. And I'd love for you, and I want to be really conscious here that everybody's experience of what anxiety and how it shows up in their body is very different. So
Mhm.
disclaimer to anybody who's listening, that it's not always the same thing. That
Mhm.
said, I'd love if you could share, if you're willing to, kind of what did it look like in your body? Like what were some of the symptoms that you were noticing that maybe kind of had you go, huh, I think there might be something more here.
It was a lot of like quick frustration for me,
Okay.
all of a sudden becoming like very short with myself, like, and those sounds, just like frustrated
Yeah.
and being, like, oh, why won't you just eat? And
Mm-hmm.
um or like, this is what you said you wanted, those type of short reactions.
Uh-huh.
And um I don't want to respond like that to anyone, but particularly my toddler.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's how I would respond from like, I don't know, like 8 months old to sometimes still now.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and then, like you feel like the heat in your face, and then you feel like maybe your heart starts racing, and then all of a sudden you're sort of just like worked up. And it's all just
Yeah.
because you like a plate of food. At the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, it's not life or death. It's just a sandwich. Like
Mm-hmm.
I felt that I would have these like big responses in the end to something, like once I would like settle down, I'd have these big responses to something kind of small. And
Okay.
that's kind of how I knew that, okay, maybe this is something that's bigger than, or it's bigger and I don't know how to best respond to it.
Yeah. So noticing not only maybe it's not how you were wanting to show up, but
Hmm.
that in it you were struggling to maybe have other options to try when you were
Hmm.
feeling kind of the
Hmm.
bigness come up. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important piece to note because sometimes too I feel like there's almost this hesitation of getting help because it's like this seems like you said maybe so small. In
Hmm.
fact, I just had someone I was talking to the other day who was saying, "Oh, well, that seems so silly that I would have that response." And so because there's
Yeah.
that mindset, there's almost this hesitation like, why would I need help? That's such a silly thing to need help with, if you will.
Hmm.
At the same time, like when we're struggling and it's coming up and we're kind of getting stuck in it, I think that
Hmm.
it doesn't matter if it's a sandwich or something that we deem larger, if you will, but that all of those things kind of have their importance and their validity to kind of need some of that support.
Right.
That makes a lot
And
of
I
sense.
think it's also every kid is different, every parent is different, every person is different. And there's so much of like we're raised in a structure, you eat 3 meals a day. Okay, well, maybe not everybody does. And
Yeah.
it's like learning to understand and appreciate that maybe my baby's tummy is just smaller and
Mm-hmm.
she needs to eat 10 times a day instead of like sitting and eating 3 big meals. And I was raised in a house where it really was 3 meals a day. There wasn't really snacking. It wasn't a thing that we did.
Yeah.
And now it's like I need to just restructure how I'm going to parent because she needs to sort of like eat every 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You do that in infancy, and it's sort of you're structured to believe that it's going to change as they get older, but maybe not for every kid. Maybe
Yeah.
just a grazer, and that's okay. And it's like, it's really just continuously reshaping how I was parented, how other people parent, because at the end of the day, she is an individual and I'm an
Mm-hmm.
individual mom. and like
Yeah.
learning from other people, but also like learning from my child, which is it's weird. It's weird to learn from a toddler.
Yeah. Can you say more? Because I've heard that before, and I've heard that same sentiment of like, I'm learning from a child. Like, what?
Yeah.
It doesn't, again, I think you're so right. Like, it doesn't fit in our society's way of existing or what's promoted out there. You know,
Mhm.
we're taught to kind of respect our elders because our elders will teach us something, right? Versus like looking downwards to the child. And so I'm so curious,
Right.
could you say a little bit more about that?
Um, it's been, I remember seeing, something on Instagram, social media, where it's like, every day, like your little one is teaching you more than like maybe what you learned in your
Mm,
like 30 some years of life. And even though like she's in essence still like brand new, right? She's still figuring out every single day. But at the same time, like she knows her body probably better
mm-hmm.
than I do at this point. She, in her limited way, is telling me, no, mom, I'm done. Please stop force feeding me. I'm
Yeah.
good. And it's like, who am I to tell her, no, you're still hungry. No, you're still
Mm,
hungry. Like it's it's really learning and teaching myself to listen, to stop and listen. Everything these days, it seems like so it's so hard to get someone to like actively listen.
yeah.
And as her mom, I have to reteach my brain to like actively listen to her words and her actions, where I don't think I necessarily got that as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like who am I to tell her that she's wrong? She's probably not wrong.
Yeah.
And it's really learning to listen to a tiny person, which is
Mm-hmm.
weird because we don't listen to toddlers. We don't
Yeah.
listen to kids. And it's different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're so right in that listening piece and really kind of retraining our brain. And it also, likely showing them that their words have value
Yes.
and worth as well, and that they're worth listening to, which is such a different construct than they
Hmm.
feel we currently, in general, kind of operate under as a
Hmm.
society.
Yeah, exactly. And I know like in different cultures in general, like for example, in Japan, that's where my dad lives, so I we go there. And there, children and moms in general, but parents, but really moms, are looked at so differently. They're just put right up here on this pedestal, like you are making the greatest sacrifice to like raise a child.
Mm,
And the general public look at children like they are a part of society. They are the next. We should treat them with respect. That doesn't
yeah.
happen here in the United States. And I take that knowledge and try to implement it every day because she is teaching us every day about her body, about what she's seeing in the world, how she's interpreting the world. And we have
Hmm.
to stop and we have to slow down and we have to
Yeah.
listen. It doesn't always have to be this like big rush. And I think that's another part of what I'm learning about myself is I don't know why I'm rushing all the time. I don't really need to.
Yeah.
Everything has to always seem like it's on the go, go, go. Okay, so maybe she needs an hour to eat an entire lunch.
Hmm.
Okay, we have an hour. Even
Yeah.
looking at her preschool schedule, they have an hour to eat.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're always constantly rushing and
Hmm.
like being with a toddler or just a young child in general, but being with a toddler has really taught me to like, or I'm still learning. I have not mastered this at all. I have to slow down. I have
Yeah.
to slow down and just, I don't know, like slow down and smell the flowers. Like it's really a statement because it's like we have to stop and slow down and look around.
Hmm.
Like who
Hmm.
are we rushing for?
Yeah. And it's so hard. Like I can't count the number of times where it's like my kids even just tying their shoes, right? It feels like it takes forever just to tie your shoe. It's like, dude, come on. Like,
Yes.
let's go. Then it's like, no, I want to do it myself. Which again, there's that battle of like, I
Yes.
want you to know how to tie your shoe. So I
Yes.
want you to give you that independence. And you're absolutely right, kind of still feeling that like that rush to like, come on, we got to go, like, hurry it up. And so then I imagine, they're trying to tell you something, or they stop and they see something really cool. And it's the first time that they've ever seen a ladybug. So they're,
Mhm.
fascinated
Mhm.
with it. And you're like, dude, now we're stopping to talk about a ladybug when I'm just trying to get you to tie your shoe. It's
Right,
hard to
right,
remember those things.
right.
Absolutely.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think in today's world where we all are all on the go,
Mm-hmm.
and we just need to take more time and like normalizing taking more time. I saw this thing again where it was like moms need to, it was a commercial for like applesauce for like Gerber
Okay.
or something. And this mom is on the plane and she's just like constantly like apologizing to people.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, it says we need to stop, we need to normalize moms not apologizing for like tending to a small human. Again, giving them worth.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just need to slow down and stop apologizing for like, we need to go. We need to go. I'm sorry, but we need to go. Let's just like take, we can stop and probably look at the ladybug. So we'll be like a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
No one's gonna get hurt because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so curious, like going back to, because I heard you mentioned for you the postpartum anxiety, especially around feeding, that you noticed that was kind of maybe the root for you, or definitely something that exacerbated it. And so do you think it is because there was this like structure, if you will, that was being handed down to you by people of authority or whomever, that you were trying to like fit into, and when you weren't fitting into it, that's where you were feeling the dissonance?
Yeah, especially like when she was little, all the books, all the doctors, all the people, the normalized they would just say like, yeah, my baby takes like 30 minutes to an hour to feed. And I would be like, mm, she's done on both sides in like 12 minutes. And they're
Mm,
like, oh, there's no way she's getting enough. And I was like, well, I can't make her, I literally can't make her latch again. So
yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. She's gaining weight, but it was even then like the authority of like a pediatrician
Hmm.
telling me that like there's no way that my baby can eat that fast. And that was like 12 months of
Wow.
that, of being
Wow.
continuously kind of reminded that like there's no way that she's that efficient. And I was like, but she is. She is that
Hmm.
efficient. And she's just a tiny girl. Like I'm not tall. My husband is average. Like we just have a tiny child. And that's
Hmm.
okay. And we need to let go of the fact that like you can't force feed a child. You can't force feed an infant, and trust that. Trust that like my body is giving her what she needs and she's taking what she needs, and that's that.
Hmm.
And it's like it was learning to be confident to tell my pediatrician, well, she's happy and she's gaining weight.
Yeah.
That's that,
How,
period.
yeah. How did that have, like, was there an internal narrative that was going on when you were hearing? Like, I'm just imagining, like you said, the fact in front of you is that it was taking 12 minutes, between both sides to feed your child, and even the pediatrician going, no way, that's wrong, essentially. And like, I'm so curious, like internally, like how are you navigating that? Was there a narrative that kind of was at war for you, or what did that look like going on
It
upstairs?
was it was just it was, I mean, it was just frustrating. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
again like, t like she would literally be feeding right there. and be done. And I'd be like, oh, just drink more, just drink more. And my supply is not going to hold up if you don't drink more. Like it was just this like, yeah, it was like an internal battle of like, just do it, just do
Yeah.
it, just drink more. They say you need more.
Mm-hmm.
And, my husband would be like, but she can't. She's not going to.
Mm-hmm.
Sh your supply is going to be what it's going to be because that's the baby we have.
Yeah.
And letting go of or learning to let go of what a textbook says, what an app says, what a scale should say, or even,
Yes.
turning that into like clothing size. I have a
Mm-hmm.
3-year-old that today went to school in 2T clothes. Oh
Yeah.
well. She's
Yeah.
she's just small and that's okay. But she's healthy. That's the other thing that we all have to kind of remember is like she's not malnourished. She's
Mm-hmm.
just petite. And that's not everybody's going to have a 90th percentile baby. Some
Yeah.
of us have a 10th or 15th percentile baby, and that's okay because that's also normal.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is about data and charts and all this, stuff, but it's also
Mm-hmm.
based on like averages. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not average,
Yeah.
but most
And
likely my baby's not.
exactly. And that like push, I feel like you're so right that there's so much of a push to be quote unquote average,
Mhm.
or to at least reach average, right? Or to be normal. And even like you said, so much like the clothing sizes, yet I remember, gosh, just in the 90s that there were companies that were making sizes that were labeled as one size, but actually they were, looking at the dimensions, they were much smaller. And so this idea that we're kind of, um, even within our clothing, kind of putting a standard on what it ought to look like and
Yeah.
what you ought to be wearing, and
Mhm.
what size you ought to be, um, in order to be classified as quote unquote healthy,
Mhm.
without taking any consideration for the variations of how our bodies are, what processes, they have, and then, like you said, the individual nature of it. And I
Mhm.
imagine kind of under that mentality, we could very well get into, like, I'm just even reflecting, on my own, where there was this idea, I would get it, being Filipino American, I would get this: finish your plate, you have to clear your plate, because do you know how many people and
Mhm. Yes.
how many
Yes.
Filipinos are starving,
Mhm.
and they don't have access to this food? So there was this push, like, ignore what your body is saying. I don't care if you're full, you're going to
Mhm.
finish your plate.
Yes.
Um,
I was
what
the
that,
same. You finish your plate, you don't leave the table until your plate is finished.
yeah.
And I mean it's disruptive because
Mm-hmm.
you learn at such a young age to not listen to your body.
Yeah.
And now it's as we raise these little women, it's learning at this age, at this young age of 6 weeks old, 2 years old, 3 years old, to just listen to your body is your and even like, we tackled even potty training and, like at the beginning it was all every hour you ask. And then you find all of a sudden you have a click and you're just like, oh, she answered no. Okay, we're gonna move on. I guess like she's just gonna tell me. And then they do tell you, Mom, I need the potty. And you're like, oh, the connections, the connections
Uh-huh.
of just listening and learning that they can tell you. And again, it's like we're not taught to trust a toddler,
Mm-hmm.
but they're learning their body better than we are, better than
Yeah.
we know them. And it's just it is a wild like turn of events
Uh-huh.
of like just trusting that she actually does know. She knows better than I do.
Absolutely. And I'm so curious, like for you, how did you end up? Because I heard you saying, building some of that confidence, like even in the face of those authority figures, like the pediatrician, to be able to to trust your gut, to trust your child's
Mhm.
body and their words, or their signals, their nonverbal cues that they're sending. Like, was there something that kind of helped you and made that click that you were able to kind of step into the office and have a little bit more of that, um, have your own
Well,
back, if you will?
yeah. I mean, one of the big things that we did was we got a different pediatrician.
Okay.
My husband and I both weren't necessarily very pleased with a certain pediatrician in the office,
Mm-hmm.
um, because they were a little condescending to what our child's needs were,
Mm-hmm.
and we decided to just try a different pediatrician. And
Yeah.
they were much more understanding. And they did this great thing where they suggested that I go look at my growth chart that my mom
Mm.
put in my baby book. And we could see that they're the same, and it was just like
Wow.
normalizing the fact that like I'm not big. My baby is not going to be big. That's great.
Yeah.
She's just like a little me, and that's great. And so that was like a big thing that we did was we found a different pediatrician.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then it was also, my therapist would just kind of continuously encourage me to like use my child's confidence and like clarity to fuel my confidence and clarity, if that makes
Mm.
sense. Like
Yeah.
I've prepared this toddler to tell me things. You're full, you're hungry, you have to use the potty, you want to color. Like I've given her all these tools in her toolbox, and she can confidently tell me all of these things. And now I can confidently listen and be less, may learn to be less worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even some of that comes from, like here she is at school. Somebody else has to deal with it for the next 8 hours. It's not me.
Yeah.
Like she's gonna have to learn that, when you're eating with everybody, you're gonna eat. And if you don't
Mm-hmm.
eat, you're gonna be hungry.
Yeah.
Like a certain point to where it's like she's gonna have to figure it out. Again, she's gonna have to learn to listen to her body with me not around, with me
Mm-hmm.
not constantly there to hand her whatever she needs. Like,
Mm-hmm.
they have to reach that. Like this is also like a milestone that they like probably don't put in a book of like there's a part where she has to learn how to do it too and
Yeah.
not constantly reminded or constantly offered something.
Mm-hmm.
She's gonna figure it out at school. And again, somebody else has to deal with it, not me, for the first like
Yeah.
3 years.
Absolutely. And I think, gosh, that's even such a reminder that I think in general, I think as a society shifting and allowing more space for that individuality, because I can imagine, like you said, because there is that this is when we eat. Again, we're building in those 3 meals a day, if you
Mhm.
will, that it also does perpetuate this, maybe I'm like overfilling here when really I didn't need that much. I just need, maybe I
Mhm.
am the person that needs, like you said, to eat every 2 hours. Um, and shifting some of that, just as a couple years ago, new math, this whole idea of new math came out and all the parents are freaking out. Trust me, I was one of them. um, at the same time, there's that benefit because it now allowed more of that individuality of like, how do you conceptualize this math problem, which I've
Mhm.
seen it just in my own children, how that's been helpful because the both of them, their brains function and make sense of things differently.
Friendly.
And
Mhm.
now, because we've opened up the space to have multiple takes on the same concept, if you will, it's allowed for them to be able to figure out what works for them, not
Mhm.
fit into somebody else's idea of of working or what's normal.
Right. Which is so, it's just so different from probably like how you and I were raised, or
Hmm.
even like me and my friends were raised. It was all about fitting into a certain box.
Yeah.
And as we're learning as adults, like, gosh, why was I forced into that box? I am not that box. I'm this box over here. And learning that there always are different roadmaps
Hmm.
to the same place. I mean, even if you just think of like a city plan, you can get somewhere almost three different ways, especially
Yeah.
in a city like St. Louis. And it's like sometimes you just choose to go this way, but you still get to the same place.
Hmm.
And, you know, in specifics to parenting, it's like we all did it in a different way. Like I don't have a single friend who's a parent who has done it the same because we all
Yeah.
have different kids. We all have different jobs. We all have
Mhm.
different financial backgrounds. But yet we still all made it to this milestone of like all three of our kids made it to preschool
Hmm.
and they're all fine. And
Yeah.
they're going to do it in a different way. And they're all at different schools and they're all going to come home and tell different stories. But we all did it. We all made it to the same milestone each time.
Hmm.
We all just did it a different way.
Yeah. And like you said, kind of normalizing that doing it differently doesn't have to be a quote unquote bad thing, right?
Mhm.
In fact, it's just you, and that's great.
Yeah. It's
And there doesn't have to
celebrating
be.
everyone's individuality
Hmm.
from the beginning. And that's not how I think we used to do it. And now it's like
Hmm.
we need to just celebrate that everybody's going to do this a different way from this beginning.
Yeah. Have you found anything for you that's been really helpful in maybe even giving yourself that same compassion and that same grace that it's okay for you to parent differently?
Um, I think it's been very, very recently that really, today I dropped her off and she literally just she waved to me
Mm.
bye. And she knew how to ask her teacher for her lovey, for her comfort item. And
Uh-huh.
she was ready to like make friends and that focusing on the fact that like my husband, like we did that. We raised this little independent woman to go out there and like take on the world.
Yeah.
And, sure, she came out pretty independent. And but there is a part that we gave her these opportunities and she's like taking them and like going on.
Mm.
And I did that and I'm really proud of it. And now
Mm.
it's like, okay, now I have to go focus on myself. How terrifying is that?
Right?
You know,
What?
I yeah, I got to eat breakfast this morning without someone stealing my food.
Hmm.
It was very,
Yeah.
very, very quiet, but it was nice.
Yeah. Oh gosh. I hear ya.
Yeah.
Even just right using the restroom and what? No one like every 2 seconds barging in?
I since I think our last interview, I joined this fancy gym and I've been swimming every day and they had daycare. So I would go and I'd drop her off and then I'd do my swim. But I always had my phone with me in case they needed
Hmm.
something. And today I got to leave my phone in the locker and I was
Oh
like,
wow.
like just flying out there solo.
Right? And what I love about that example is it seems so small, like something that we might just easily gloss over.
Hmm.
It's like, oh, I put my phone in the locker. Yet at the same time, I think going back to what you mentioned, that slowing down and noticing, like there are these subtle shifts and being able to kind of go, oh yeah, that was kind of cool. That was, that felt great.
It was a
And
new like
allowing yourself.
yeah, it was a new level of anxiety that I could actually just let go of.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she's in a safe place, and
Yeah.
if something was really, really wrong, like someone will get in contact with me. You know, it
Mm-hmm.
would go to my watch. Like it's fine.
Yeah.
But it, I she's fine, and
Mm-hmm.
she's getting everything that she needs. They're gonna feed her. It's fine.
Yeah.
She's
But just,
going to
it's
probably
hard.
eat.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
who knows? Like when you're a stay-at-home mom and you only have one kid, who knows how much of your kid is just watching you and like, well, they're
Mm,
watching you a lot, but like, is she just this kind of eater because I'm always on the go? I'm literally like never sitting down. Is that part of
mm,
it? Is she just going to be like this little socialite at this little tiny table with like, 15 other toddlers and they're all just like eating their food together? Like, is
mm-hmm.
that what she's gonna be? Who knows? But it's a whole new world, really,
Yeah,
and she's fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
As we close out, one of the questions I love to ask folks is if you had access to a DeLorean and you could go back in time, um, is there a particular time, not to change anything, but just to maybe offer yourself some words, some comfort, even just a hug that you would go back? And if so, when would you go back and what would you offer yourself?
It's interesting that you mentioned that. So I have a friend that's currently pregnant and she's getting very nervous about delivering. But she's been told that her baby's probably like a 90th percentile baby.
Okay.
And she's getting worried that she's going to have to like get a C-section or something like that. And I told her to take these estimations as estimations.
Mm,
I wish that we hadn't held on to the data as much as we did.
mm-hmm.
Like our daughter was estimated to be a pound and a half bigger than she was, and
Yeah.
she was actually much smaller, and we were not prepared like at
Mm-hmm.
all, which then I think set the paving stones for how the first 12 months were going to be, or even like the first month, and then 12 months, and then 2 years, and then 3 years. And I wish that we had been just a little bit, maybe not like who, but like it's it's just numbers, it's just estimations. You will figure it out, and it's
Mm-hmm.
going to be okay. But I think we were just we were again put in a box.
Yeah.
And we didn't, once that box wasn't the right box, we were like, I just felt there were times where I was just like trying to tread water and figure it out. And I didn't know how to figure it out, which then caused like the anxieties and the depression and the are you doing it right type
Mm-hmm.
thing. And maybe that's just the kind of person that I am, but I wish that I had just not held on to those particular things so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which makes a lot of sense. And for me personally, that resonates because I had a similar, journey with both my children for that matter. And where, like you said, there's these authority figures kind of asserting themselves and telling you what's what,
Hmm.
about this person, even for my oldest that wasn't even here yet.
Hmm.
And there was a lot of fear kind of being
Hmm.
pushed because I was measuring too large.
Hmm.
And he came out and he was teeny tiny there. And the doctor literally had an audible, like, oh, I expected him to be bigger. And I was like, what? you, you scared me half to death. I was like, watching what I was eating like a hawk because I was so concerned.
Yeah.
So that resonates for sure. I'm so as we, one last question for you before I say goodbye. Like, is there any other resources that you found, or any other um, shout outs, or someone that was just really in your corner? Anything that you would like to offer to
Um,
anyone listening?
I mean, my husband, obviously, but my best friends, my crew that have just been there day in and day out, whether it's been on the phone or a text message or literally at my house. Um, just always, no matter what the problem was, they were always there, whether it was
Mhm.
like just holding her so I could figure something out or just being there to listen because I'm sure that there were points where I really was a broken record,
Yeah.
continuously concerned about the same things. But now, as my friends start to have their own babies, I can be more supportive and be there for them to lean on me. But
Hmm.
also, I think to help them feel confident that it's okay to not fit into this box. There's,
Yeah.
there's a box for everybody and I don't know their babies, but I can offer them what I've learned through
Hmm.
my parenting journey.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good reminder for anybody who's listening who maybe is that support person of things that might be helpful and always, turning to the parent. And we can always ask them too, like, how can I best support you? And let them lead, just as you mentioned, kind of letting our children lead, and telling us kind of what would be helpful,
Hmm.
rather than inserting and saying, oh, this is what you need to do, like you said.
Yeah.
So I love that. That's a great reminder. Chloe, thank you so much for coming back again, and sharing your story. I enjoy talking with you and I appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Bye bye. If you or anyone that you know is struggling with any of the topics that we discussed in today's episode, make sure to check out our show notes for support and resources. You can get help. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode of The Real Family Eats. If you're a parent ready to share your real life parenting story, make sure to reach out to us in our website found in the show notes. And that goes for today's recipe, social medias, support, and resources. All of that can be found in our show notes. So make sure to check them out. And make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and stay up to date on all things The Real Family Eats. I hope you'll join us next time for more food for thought and thoughtful food. Enjoy your eats.